Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Bible Rave. So today we're in Genesis. I was reading about Abraham and how his name got changed from Abram to Abraham and Sarai to Sarah. And I even read up until Sodom and Gomorrah got destroyed. And so in that thing, the big lesson that stuck out to me was transition. And it was especially in Sodom and Gomorrah's story with Lot, which is Abraham's nephew, that it stuck out. So what happened is Abram and Sarai, they're like almost 100. He was 100, she was 90. And God told him a second time, I'm going to make a multitude of nations out of you. And it was so interesting because it said the Lord appeared. Now this is the second time the Lord's appeared to Abram. The Lord appeared, but Abram saw 3 men, right? It's not a big deal, except it's kind of interesting. 1, but 3, right? And so the the men start talking and say, Abram, you're going to have a wife, or you're going to have a child by your wife. And he said, well, I have my son Ishmael already. And they're like, no, that's not it. You're going to have your own. And Sarai hears it for the first time and she laughs. And the men ask, why is she laughing? Could you imagine being in a tent thinking you're laughing to yourself and then being called out by 3 strangers? Well, she said, I wasn't laughing. Okay, Eve, number 2. Right? So we have this disbelief, distrust, and then you just lie, I guess, to avoid whatever it is. And so the 2 men start going first, and Abraham ends up staying with the Lord. Now they say specifically this is the Lord. So this 3 is actually 2 men and God, or the Lord. And so Abraham said, well, you said you're going to Sodom and Gomorrah, like what's going on over there? And the Lord says, well, we're going to go destroy it. The cries and the pleas for that place have been coming to me, and it's time to destroy it. And Abraham's like, well, what if you found 50 people that were going to, be good for you? And he was like, okay, well, I'll save him for 50. He's like, well, what if it's 45? And he was like, okay, I'll save it for 45. He said, what? Don't get mad at me, but what if there were 30 people that were pleasing to you? He's like, okay, I'll save it for 30 people. He's like, what about 20? And you're pushing the Lord. He knew he was talking to the Lord already. And the Lord said, okay. He's like, all right, last time. Just, what if there are 10 people? Would you save the place? And he was like, if there were 10 people, I would save it. And I think it's funny because it said when the Lord was done talking to him, he left. So God's like, look, maybe 10 max. And it's interesting because in the next chapter, it's Sodom and Gomorrah. But what you get introduced to are 2 men walking into the city. And they are specified as angels. So what happened was when Abraham saw the 3 men, he saw the Lord and 2 angels. Those 2 angels went on to Sodom and Gomorrah while Abraham had that little negotiation with God. So the angels show up to Sodom and Gomorrah, and Lot, who is Abraham's nephew, who lives there, said, hey, it's evening, you should come stay at my house. And they were like, no, we're going to stay in the town square. He said, no, you need to come to my house. So they come in, and right as he's about to shut the door, the whole village shows up, young and old pretty much. And they're like, we saw you brought 2 men here. We want to get to know them intimately. You need to bring them out here. And Lot's like, no, 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 no. Why don't we just be nice? Just leave them alone. What you're doing is wrong. They're in my house. And then this is the part that gets me. I have 2 daughters who have not known men. You can do whatever you want to them. He volunteered his 2 virgin daughters for whatever treatment this group of old and young men had in mind to save these 2 angels, which I'm not sure if he knew at that point were angels. And they were like, no, because you're keeping these guys from us. We're going to do worse to you. And so right as the people were about to pull Lot out of his doorway, the angels pull him back in, slam the door, and then exude this bright light to the point it's blinded the entire group that's standing there, so they could not find the entrance to the door. They said, you need to take your family and your wife, and you need to leave. And Lot said, why? He said, and the 2 men said, we are angels sent by God, and we are here to destroy this place. We will save you, and we will save your family. Get your wife and your kids and their wives and leave. If you turn around, you'll die. And they said, go over to the hills. And Lot's like, well, the hills are too far. Like, isn't this crazy that angelic beings, God himself, are presented to these people and they're like negotiating, right? But the best part is that they're negotiating back. And he's like, what about that little town right there? I can get my family there, And they said, fine, we'll do you this favor too. So the first favor was letting them live. The second favor is allowing them to go to this little town that they named Zoar, Zoar, after that. So Lot gets his family, and some of them are just like hesitant or whatever, to the point that the angels literally grab Lot and his family and throw them out and make them go. Well, Lot's wife turns around. She turns to a pillar of salt. Lot gets the rest of his family to this little town. And it says, and the Lord from heaven sent down like acidic rain and fire onto Sodom and Gomorrah. And it stretched the plains that they had to run through between Sodom and Gomorrah to that Zoar place. And it just leveled it. And in the morning, when Lot looked outside, there was just smoke coming from the ground. So, what does this all have to do with transition? A lot of the times transition is very hard. You see the future, you see the potential, but it's almost hysterical because it's like, isn't it too late? Aren't I too old? Isn't life already going the way it's going to go? Why won't it, why is it going to change now all of a sudden? And sometimes when we have the opportunities, we're being forced to move instead of like taking them by the reins and just moving ourselves. When we transition, we're going to be met with opposition and resistance. But the thing is that when you transition, you have to understand where you're going. So for Abraham, he's being told he's going to go to a new level of fathers of nations. His children are going to be prosperous. When you come to Lot, he's told go to this new place so you don't get destroyed. But still something inside of us holds deep to what we know, and it has trouble letting go. When you're trying to transition to a new phase of life, a new project even, you have to let go of something from the past so you have a hand to reach forward to in the future. The reason that this section is so interesting is that the transition of Lot left demolition and smoke with it. The transition of Abraham leaves his son demolished with his mother in the desert. And he starts this new life as if he had to just forget them. And so while you're going through a transition, you're going to have to forget. You're going to have to let go. It's going to be scary. You're going to be forced if you don't do the right thing when you're supposed to. But there's always something ahead to look forward to. Just find that one thing. I'm going to be happier tomorrow. And just keep moving towards that. And I hope that your transition is a lot easier because of this. So if you have any questions, just reach out. I'll talk to y'all later.